If you plan on getting into or start buying custom Lego anytime soon, watch this video. If you even have a friend that has even remotely suggested that they want to get into custom Lego as well, send this to them because this is very, very important. I guarantee you this video is going to save you lots of money and lots of stress. And at the end, I'm going to recommend you the shops that I personally buy from. Before we go any further, I'm going to ask you to smash that like button. And if you own any custom Lego or plan on buying any custom Lego, leave a comment. Tell me what you have or what you want. If this type of content interests you, I have plenty of videos on my channel going over many custom routes. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers, so please consider subscribing. Make sure to join our Discord server that's in the description below. If you're new to the land of custom Lego, let me be your guide. So firstly, what classifies as a custom and what isn't one? Custom Lego can fall under modified pieces, such as minifigures, that often receive custom printing to create or replicate a character that Lego hasn't maybe made in a long time, or maybe they've never made them. Sometimes instead of straight up modifying pre-existing parts, many now have the ability to straight up make their own pieces, whether they are 3D printed or injection molded just like Lego. A modified or newly created part that is on par with Lego's quality is considered a custom. For very simple pieces, you can find them on AliExpress, such as this one-length axle tilt ball socket, which is really great for bionicle mocks. So where is the line drawn in terms of a custom? I personally draw the line when third-party manufacturers such as Lepin create their own figures with custom printing. It's often very, very cheaply made, and the plastic quality is just straight up horrendous. They used to be 99 cents. I believe they're around $2 or $3 now. I only recommend buying these when they have unique molds that you plan on customizing yourself, because otherwise you're just wasting your money. When it comes to minifigures specifically, the two usual routes are pad printing, which is the same type of printing that Lego does, but this can often vary in quality, especially with how the minifigure design is made. You can often tell when it's created using pixels rather than a vector format. For those that don't know, vector formats don't utilize pixels, and this often results in cleaner cuts. Or often, the ink is so poor that you can just accidentally wipe it off with your finger. On the other side, we have UV printing, which leaves a layer on the piece, and it's much easier to scratch off with your nail, and it often varies in quality, but it often sticks out from what you usually see on a minifigure, since this is not a practice that Lego does. Oftentimes, UV printed figures are cheaper, but I will always personally recommend a pad print job. But again, it depends on the manufacturer, so make sure that the seller supplies physical photos of what the figure looks like so you can get a better idea. It might just sound like common sense for a lot of you, but trust me, a lot of people tend to forget this. When it comes to non-minifigure style pieces, you'll often find that these are going to be 3D printed or resin cast. If you do plan on buying a 3D printed product, make sure that it is resin printed. And if it is FDM printed, then make sure that it has a nice paint job or the layer lines are almost near invisible. With resin printing, you can actually print with ABS-like resin, which leads to quality very similar to Lego. There are ABS plastics for FDM printing, however, often with ADM prints, they do not work too well with official Lego and they will wear down your pieces if you do interlock them together a lot. That is mainly why I recommend resin printing. It also just looks a lot cleaner. There's a lot less post-processing because you're going to find a lot of sellers are just hobbyists and really they don't often know what they're doing. So just for safety and quality, I often just recommend going with a resin print, especially if it's for a smaller item. When it comes to items like bionicle masks, I highly recommend getting a resin cast of it as a priority. This is the closest you'll ever be able to get to Lego quality with bionicle without having to injection mold a piece. There are actually injection molded pieces on AliExpress with Kenny's mocks, but if you're not interested in buying from China at the moment because of tariffs and such, Zion Tyro does sell the masks himself in the United States, and Buryu sells a good amount of them here in Canada. They both sell them much cheaper than Kenny for some reason, but they also don't have all of Kenny's stuff. But back to resin casting. It's going to be much more difficult to scratch, but it might also break the item with it being a resin cast. Just treat it a little bit more sensitively rather than a standard Lego piece, just because it is resin. Though the durability should be about the same. And what's nice about this versus a 3D printed piece is that this is not going to have any paint to scratch off. So if you do plan on buying 3D printed items, they are often going to be painted. And this isn't a problem for a lot of people, including myself, but do keep in mind if you're storing the item to put it in a little baggie or something. Once again, make sure that these parts are resin printed or resin cast, because especially for bionicle, FDM prints just simply don't look as good. Sometimes they do, depending on who makes them, but the ones that you see most commonly online, they don't look that great. Not to mention with the price that you're paying for them, if you are going to be buying FDM printed parts, you may as well just buy your own FDM printer, as they're actually not that expensive and aren't too bad to maintain. I only really recommend buying FDM printed parts if they are weapons and such. The smaller the item, the more you're going to see the layer lines. If all this information in the video is going to fly over your head, remember this. Never, ever pre-order custom parts. I've done this a few times, so I'm speaking from personal experience, and I've also seen many people fall victim of this. Never give someone money up front. Like I mentioned earlier, all these sellers are just hobbyists and they don't actually know what they're doing. Maybe aside from a few that I'll mention at the end of the video. Often, many custom sellers will take on a lot more than they can handle without realizing it. I don't mean to call out anybody here, but I am going to name names. A few years ago, Omega Bricks listed some custom figures that other people made along with his own. He was going to distribute the other customs along with making his own. I pre-ordered from him in 2020. It was right around the time of the pandemic. I have yet to see my Forlom figure, ever. And I have tried DMing this person multiple times to get a refund. Before he was just ignoring me, and now I don't even think he opens my DMs, but once a year or every 6 months or so, I will send him another DM asking where the hell is it. This guy's name was Matt Omega, so if this person for some reason ever makes customs again, do not buy or purchase from Matt Omega or Omega Bricks. I doubt that he'll ever make stuff again, but again, just in case. Now that was a quite malicious example. Let me give you a much more understanding one. So about last February, the account on Instagram, Socket Balls Masks, is a very fantastic resin caster mask maker. They make extremely high quality stuff, and they listed some Metru, Mahikis, and Rows. When I purchased them, it was not advertised that they were going to be pre-orders. I was under the impression that these were already made. If it was listed anywhere on the listing that these were pre-orders, then I would not have bought this. It's possible that it could have been somewhere in tiny text, but if you are going to make an item that is a pre-order, you should have that front and center. And if not, then you should reach out to the customer and let them know that the order is going to be delayed. I made that purchase back in February of 2024. It is now 2025, May the 4th as I'm recording. I still have not received my stuff. Socket did actually make a post about it and explain their side of the story. But if you are going to be taking people's money, you have to let them know and not just straight up ghost people, not replying to DMs, not replying to comments for over a year. And I am giving this person the benefit of the doubt. I don't know their living situation. I don't know what their life is outside of selling masks on the side. But you can't just call it a hobby anymore when people have paid you for a service that you have yet to fulfill. It is now a customer experience, and you are going to be treated like a business just like all the others. So personally, I cannot recommend that you purchase from Socket Balls. Hopefully that changes in the future, and I hope that they get rid of the pre-order option, because it's not just stressful for the customer, but it's also stressful for the seller. So this is the part of the video where I'm going to start recommending shops instead of shitting on them. My absolute favorite shop is brickguild.ca. Brickguild creates not just IP-inspired works, but also covers original Lego as well. He really captures that original 1999 to 2003 or 4 experience. Brickguild has fantastic customer support. He replies super fast. The shipping is actually quite quick, and I've had orders go wrong before due to postal services and such. And Matt has gone out of his way to resend the order and include a lot of bonus items in there as well. So he treats his customers well, and it's definitely encouraging to always go back to him. I know there's always that Cristo quality that people like to bring up a lot. Cristo's not really worth it in my opinion. There's just far too much money that you have to sink into the figures. I don't really have the need to buy from Christo. I don't need to drop $300 on a singular Lego figure. Christo has the right tools to make shit, but as soon as Brick Guild begins injection molding parts, which he has done in small doses, by the way, he has created a very fantastic yellow Kiadimundi. He would for sure be the #1 place to buy customs on the market if he had that technology ready to go. But regardless, 10 out of 10 shop, would highly recommend. Items are fairly priced. The quality, in my opinion, is perfect. Next up, I've talked about this shop before, but we have LSW.Toys. You could probably guess what LSW stands for, but this is Hilly's shop. Hilly is the same person that created the custom Bantha figure that I bought a while back and I reviewed. Hilly makes use of 3D printed material, resin, painted works, but also pad and UV printed figures. I would definitely recommend buying his pad figures if you can, but I do own one of his UV figures and it is quite nice. No one sells items like Hilly. There's almost no competition there when it comes to that. Again, maybe aside from Christo, but I've yet to see Christo create a custom Bantha. Hilly usually makes LSW inspired works. He's made some DC inspired works before as well, but if you're a Star Wars fan, then you're definitely going to enjoy his shop. In terms of bionicle customs, I strongly recommend Nate's Masked shop. Nate makes fantastic replicas of pre-existing bionicle masks and will recolor them, including the 2004 Metrotorn dual molded masks. They are a little bit more sparkly, but they're still fantastic. He's actually working on a very, very big order for me right now, so shout out to him. Next, I would recommend Buryu. He will make you the best 3D printed masks you'll ever see. You can barely even tell they're 3D printed. They're that good, and no one does a better paint job than him. Like I said earlier, he does sell some of the knockoffs as well. Lastly, I am going to recommend Omega's Kanohi Forge. His stuff goes in and out of stock pretty frequently, so keep an eye out whenever there's a restock from him. He does do private commissions along with the others. I actually bought the miscasts from him, and these are really well worth it. Of course, these are completely random, but it is cool having like a messed up bionicle mask. I have ways that I'm going to reuse them, which I'll show in sometime in the future, maybe far future. But some of them might only have like a very, very tiny flaw that's practically not noticeable, but declared not good enough to sell on its own. That marks the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and let me know which of these shops you're most interested from buying. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one.